ਉਠ ਵੰਜ ਵਟਾਉੜਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਆ ਚਿਰ ਲਾਇਆ, ਮੋਲਤ ਪੁੰਨੜੀਆਂ ਕਿਤ ਕੂੜ ਲੁਭਾਇਆ। ਹੁਕਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਪੇਜ 459-460, ਅੰਗ 459 460, ਆਸਾ ਮੁਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। ਉਠ ਵੰਜ ਵਟਾਉੜਿਆ ਤੈਂ ਕਿਆ ਚਿਰ ਲਾਇਆ, ਮੋਲਤ ਪੁੰਨੜੀਆਂ ਕਿਤ ਕੂੜ ਲੁਭਾਇਆ। ਕੂੜੇ ਲੁਭਾਇਆ ਥੋ ਮਾਇਆ, ਕਰੈ ਪਾਪ ਅਮਿਥਿਆ। ਤਨ ਫਸਮ ਠੇਰੀ ਜਮੈ ਹੇਰੀ, ਕਾਲ ਬਪੜੇ ਜਿੱਥਿਆ। ਮਾਲ ਜੋਬਨ ਛੱਡ ਵੈਸੀ, ਰਹਿਓ ਪੈਨਨ ਖਾਇਆ। ਨਾਨਕ ਕਮਾਨਾ ਸੰਗ ਜੁਲਿਆ, ਨ ਜਾਏ ਕਿਰਤ ਮਿਟਾਇਆ। ਆਸਾ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾਂ। In this Shabad, Guruji tries to awaken us from the slumber of Maya, that is involvement in worldly affairs, and advises us to earn profit of God's name, that alone can save us from the continuous pain of birth and death. He reminds us that our stay in this world is like that of a traveler in a foreign land and is of a very short duration. So like that traveler, our main goal should be to achieve the objective of reuniting with our Master by meditating on his name and not becoming lost in the tempting riches or revilements of this foreign land. Guruji therefore addresses us and says, "Rise up, O traveler, and resume your march towards your destination. Why are you delaying? Do you not see that your assigned time in this world has almost ended? I wonder in what kind of false temptation are you caught? It appears that you are enticed by the deceit of Maya, the worldly riches and power, for which you are committing countless sins. But remember that ultimately this body will become a heap of dust. The demon of death has his eye on it, and death will soon win over the poor human being. Then he or she would forsake all youth and wealth, and eating and wearing clothes will cease. O Nanak, the earning of good and bad deeds would accompany a person, because the record of deeds cannot be erased." ਫਾਥੋ ਮਿਰਗ ਜੀਵੇਂ ਭੇਖ ਰੈਨ ਚੰਦਰਾਇਨ, ਸੁਖੋਂ ਦੁਖ ਭਏ ਨਿਤ ਪਾਪ ਕਮਾਇਨ। ਪਾਪਾਂ ਕਮਾਣੇ ਛੱਡੇ ਨਾਹੀ, ਲੈ ਚੱਲੇ ਗਤ ਕਤ ਗਲਾਵਿਆ। ਹਰ ਚੰਦੌਰੀ ਦੇਖ ਮੂਠਾ, ਕੂੜ ਸੇ ਜਾ ਰਾਵਿਆ। ਲਬ ਲੋਭ ਅਹੰਕਾਰ ਮਾਤਾ, ਗਰਭ ਭਇਆ ਸਮਾਇਨ। ਨਿਕ ਮਿਰਗ ਅਗਿਆਨ ਬਿਨਸੇ, ਨ ਮਿਟੈ ਆਵਨ ਜਾਇਨ। Now Guruji illustrates this sermon with some beautiful examples. First he gives the example of a deer who, upon mistaking the artificial light of a hunter's torch for genuine moonlight, runs towards it and thus easily becomes the target of the hunter's arrow. Next he quotes the example of a false but beautiful city which can appear in the seashore or on a vast stretch of sand. He says, "O mortal, just as a deer is caught when dazzled by the artificial light of a hunter, similarly you are caught in the false glare and attachment of worldly riches and power. The pleasures and comforts for the sake of which you get caught turn into pains and sorrows, but every day you continue committing sins for their sake. The sins committed by you do not spare you, and because of them the demons of death will drive you away with a rope around your neck. So these sins will become the source of your suffering and death. O mortal, like seeing an imaginary city in the sky, you are deceived by the false glitter of worldly riches, and you enjoy the false bed of worldly comforts. Intoxicated with lust, greed, and ego, you are consumed in self-conceit. O Nanak, like the deer, human beings are perishing due to their ignorance, and their cycles of birth and death do not end. Stanza 2. मिठै मख मुआ क्या लय उडारी हस्ती गर्त पया क्यों तरिए तारी तरन दोहे लाफे आखिन में खसम चित्त न आयो दुखा सजाई गनत नाही किया अपना पायो गुजा कमाना प्रगट हुआ ई तू तय खुआरी नानक सतगुर बाज मूठा मनमुखे अहंकारी. Guruji next cites the example of an ordinary fly which in its greed for sweets becomes stuck in brown sugar, and an elephant which, lured by the false model of a female elephant, falls in a pit and is caught. He says, just as a fly stuck in sweets cannot fly and thus loses its life, similarly a person trapped by worldly attachments becomes stuck in them and dies spiritually. Or just as an elephant, lured by the false statue of a female elephant, falls into a pit and then is caught, cannot get out of it. Similarly, the person who does not remember God, even for a moment, finds it difficult to swim across the worldly ocean. Then there is no end to the pains and punishments, because such a one reaps the reward of one's own deeds. Whatever sins were committed in secrecy become manifest, and he or she suffers both here and hereafter. O Nanak, without repairing to the true Guru, the self-willed egoist is deceived and loses his or her spiritual life to evils. Stanza 3. हर के दास जीवे लग प्रभु की चरनी कंठ लगाए लिए तिस ठाकुर सरनी बल बुद्ध ज्ञान ध्यान अपना आप नाम जपाया साध संगत आप हो आप जगत तराया राख लिए रखन हारे सदा निर्मल करनी नानक नरक न जाए कबहू हर संत हर की सरनी. Guruji concludes this Shabad by describing the life conduct of the Guru's followers and how they obtain bliss and pleasure. Unlike the self-conceited persons described above, he says, by remaining attached to God's feet, his name, the devotees of God live an exalted spiritual life. That Master embraces such devotees to his bosom. Then God himself blesses them with his spiritual power, wisdom, meditation, and makes them contemplate on his name. He himself becomes the holy congregation of the Saint Guru and helps them cross the worldly ocean. In short, O Nanak, the Saviour God himself saves his devotees from evils, for always being in the shelter of God, their deeds remain immaculate. Therefore, his saints never go to hell. Stanza 4-2-11. The message of this Shabad is that our stay in this world is for a very short, uncertain period. Therefore, instead of wasting our time in the pursuit of worldly riches and power, we should devote ourselves to good deeds and the love of God's name, so that we may save ourselves from perpetual pains of birth and death. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. SGGS page 459-460. Thank you.